But strangely enough, there is left in the world today an area as big as the United States
that's never been seen by a human being.
The best is yet to come.
Collectively, remember, we outnumber the sociopaths, so the more we can share and spread information about a multitude of issues, we have more control than we give ourselves.
Houston, we have a call.
We destroyed that technology.
People should not be walking around with masks.
That stuff is flat.
There's your flu
Last year.
Here's your flu this year.
Literally doesn't.
All right,
ladies and
exist.
gentlemen, welcome back to the Hibbeler Effect. Thank you for joining us this week. As you can see, we have a legend here. This woman has been in the Air Force. She served in the Air Force for, I believe, 9 years. And she has some stories, and she has been known for being the whistleblower of geoengineering, chemtrails. But there's so much more to this woman. There's so many more stories to talk about, and so many more things she's done specifically for this country and for you listening. Ladies and gentlemen, Kristen Meghan, welcome to the Hibbeler Effect. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. I know we have a lot of mutual friends, and I'm excited to I don't like speaking my own echo chamber, so I'm excited to kind of be introduced to your audience.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's why I wanted you on. I know a lot of my audience has seen Look Up. I know that was taken down off YouTube many moons ago. It's on Rockfin for free. Always on Rockfin for free, guys. But Look Up, a lot of comments on that video, thousands and thousands coming in when I made that. And you were a big part of that. This is the woman that I feature in that short film, guys. Kind of an OG in a sense. How did you, well, I don't want to start there. It's more of like, all right, obviously you're in the Air Force, you're doing your thing, you're serving your country, you're all about it, you're looking at the exposure, the chemicals, and you're doing all the science. When did it hit you? When was the moment? I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, but when was the moment where you were like, wait a minute, what is going on right now? What is happening? Hold on. When did that start? I'm sure it was a journey, but how did that process begin?
Well, I have been asked this, but to be honest, you just spoke of that footage. I first spoke out about this in 2010, and I always say it was me pre-Invisalign. But I kind of took a break from it because I passed the baton to other people that came forward. But I have been speaking a lot about it more in the past year, just because it's openly admitted. Yeah. Okay, but if you go back, I spent, like you said, 9 years on active duty in the Air Force, and I worked in bioenvironmental engineering. If you think about that for a moment, it's like OSHA, EPA, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission of the military. Yeah. And I came home. So I live in Michigan now. I'm from Michigan. And I remember I came home, I think it was around 2008. I was at my brother's house, and I'd never heard of Alex Jones. And he made me watch a documentary called Terror Storm. And it was about 9/11 truth and all these issues. And then it kind of went into a rabbit hole. And I was like, okay, I'm going to look into Alex Jones. And I heard about chemtrails. And I thought, well, this is just dumb. And if this was happening and people were accusing the military, I could find out, because I was one of a handful of people that dealt with chemical acquisition. There's a term in my profession, and the EPA knows this, called cradle to grave use, meaning if you're going to bring in a hazardous material, you better track who's using it and then how they're disposing of it, right? So I just went down this trail, and in the process, to summarize, in the process of attempting to debunk it, it's called now a material, it's known as a material safety data sheet, but now it's just a safety data sheet. But it's very technical, and I'm going to try to dumb it down, but it basically explains like the chemical hazards, human impacts, environmental impacts. It's packing group, meaning if you're going to ship it, how do you ship it? And these MSDSs at the time, it reminds me, I forgot which movie it was. It was like a baseball movie for kids, and the dude had a birth certificate out of crayon.
No,
I don't remember what that was. But it was
I'm
funny.
sure someone in the audience
they had
knows
some
exactly
like
what she's talking
32-year-old
about.
Mexican guy playing in Little League. I forgot what it was called, but some of your viewers might know.
Oh,
It reminded me of that. I could tell that this was very handwritten, and there are modified SDSs. It happens all the time. But I'm not allowed to approve it if it doesn't have certain materials. So I started denying the use. So that rose up flags. Wow. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, why are we denying this use? And then we had hangars and shops in the Air Force that all of their operations are classified. You know, I had clearance. We had binders called case files of tracking exposures in a workplace, right? So if I actually went and did what's called an industrial hygiene survey, I can't bring that binder back to my office because it's classified.
Yeah.
So I started like being told I couldn't go places anymore. And I just won like non-commissioned officer of the quarter. I won an annual award. So like my point is I was never in trouble.
Yeah.
Then I started being treated like shit. And I took a step back, did my own sampling. And long story short, I realized that we were retrofitting C-130s and KC-135s with these nozzles. And I was threatened to be thrown in a loony bin. And it just so happened, like, I don't know, this was like the universe or a God thing, but with no notice and no money, I did not re-enlist. And normally when you get out of the Air Force, you have to go through something called TAPS. It's like, I forgot what the acronym is, but it's a transition training, how to be a civilian again.
That's hilarious, but okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to laugh.
That.
I'm just like,
no,
I've never heard
Let me
of
tell you how
fuck?
quick I went, and they didn't even like take my ID cards. Don't worry if the government's listening, I sent them back. But like, I just left, and I was totally started speaking on this. I got an attorney. And then ironically, like the base I was at was mostly civilianized, and even their union had my back.
Wow.
So for the people who think like I chose this as my shining moment or my 15 minutes of fame, well, it's been like what, 13 years now.
Yeah.
But this is not what I want to be known for. And in fact, I was offended when I heard of these programs. But I'll tell you what, there's more to my time in the military that made me kind of wake up to what was going on, but that was just one of them. And when you realize that the very same chemicals that I'm trying to engineer out of a workplace and get substitution of safer green chemicals, we're buying them in large quantities and certain different forms, like there's solid liquid gases, particulates, dust, all of this. And it was just so different. And I just knew everything I ever thought I'm going to question. So I kind of became a little paranoid. Then I became a contributor for InfoWars, and I have not shut up since. And I'm just trying to stand up for truth. And I do it all on my own dime, despite, these grifting accusations.
Well, you've done a lot, and it's been, like you said, 13 years and counting. That's something that is hard to accomplish, meaning not, like a lot of times it's like someone like you should shut up a few years later, right? Just move on. Mm-hmm. You keep going, you keep talking, you keep spreading the information, you keep jumping on shows, you keep doing conferences, doing panels, I'm always seeing you with a microphone around. When it comes to geoengineering though, I saw a very small wave back, I don't know, I want to call it maybe 2015, 2016, where there was people writing about geoengineering and having signs and all this stuff. When I see that, I'm hopeful, meaning like, hey, look, people are aware of what they're spraying in our skies. They don't want it. There's got to be a way the human race can stop it. It's like, no matter who's in charge or powerful, if we stand up, literally it changes. And when I saw that, I was hopeful, but then I think to myself, that's not going to do a fucking thing. It's really not going to do a thing. I just think that the rulers laugh at that shit. Do you agree with that? Because what can we do, basically? You know what I mean? Like it's I don't want a loaded question, but it's like, what are we supposed to do at that point? Like I see it every day. I'm in California now. Sometimes they give us a week off, and trust me, me and the wife, we will speak that out loud. Like, thank you. Like, oh man, they gave us a day off 2 days in a row. We're like, holy shit. And I'm always like, something's about to happen. I'm like, so we're not going anywhere near Hollywood this week. Like, so they're planning something at that point if they cut us off for more than 2 days. But they're always spraying. And now I'm noticing nighttime, especially. I think it's because they're like, shit, the people know, people video recording, they're talking about it. Let's just do it at night. And I'm like, where the fuck's the moon? Oh, it's behind a bunch of chemtrails.
Yeah.
So really, in the sense, what are we supposed to do as humanity besides talk about it, spread the information, and of course protest? But what can we actually do? Because you've been in the military, you saw it hands-on. The more POV you can possibly get out of anyone, myself or anyone listening, what can we do? Is there hope at all?
Well, it's normally my nature. I never bitch about something unless I have a solution. But when it comes to this, to be completely blunt with you, there's not much we can do because this is a global thing. It's happening all over. It's actually openly admitted. And this is why I kind of roll my eyes when people say that I just made this up because, yeah, this is how I chose to be known. It's openly admitted. And I do have whistleblower protection, by the way. So I brought the receipts. But realistically, the best thing we can do is to get everything's so divisive in this country. It's either left or right. And I'm a member of neither side. I'm on the side of truth, but I think we need to get the more like leftist tree huggers on board, because you have all these environmental issues going on that used to be like main talking points on the nightly news. I mean, look at East Palestine, right? Nobody gives a shit. I'm involved in that also. But what we can do is everything we can do in this country has to begin at the local level. Whether it's getting fluoride removed out of your water or getting people to recognize that the government is the biggest polluter, you have to go to in my state, we have county commissioners. I know there's states that actually don't even have counties. That blew my mind. But
a lot of people are just learning this now, though, because of this awakening. People don't know how much power they have. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, the local level is where you have power. So bring the admitted government documents. You present a lot of them in your documentary, other documentaries. And shockingly, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had Dane Wigington on his podcast. The High Wire with Del Bigtree had Dane on. I about fell over. I'm like, I don't think I've even myself has gotten, I think Del Bigtree gave Dane like 45 minutes. You have to awaken the health freedom people and also bring in the progressive liberals who are, so worried about, the 1%ers polluting. Realize this is an issue that affects everybody. And, just like the scamdemic that affected everybody and they wanted everyone to care, everyone should give a shit. But the best thing you can do for yourself, for your health, would be to get water filters. And if you are someone who grows your food, try to do as much of it. There's people that have those towers. You get the towers, grow them in your home, or at least have covering on where you're growing your own food. And I know these things you're like, okay, but there's huge farmers. This is why.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you talking about Organite? Organite towers?
I don't know.
Is that what you're referencing?
No, they're like growing towers.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about, because I was relating that when you said towers, I was thinking of those things they stick in the ground made from the mineral or the element organite. Mm-hmm. And that is supposed to keep your garden and your yard and your home free of chemtrails, because there's something in the natural organite stone that literally, and I did this one. I don't mean to interrupt. We'll go right back. I'm so sorry. I got to tell you this though, because I will forget. The organite works because one day I went outside with an organite. It was only about this big, the stick. Okay. And I thought it was bullshit. It was a crave going on a couple years ago on one of those social media sites. And I'm like, that's bullshit. I gotta go do this. Bought a $30 organite stick, sent to my house, went outside, saw a little chemtrail in the sky. I went like this in the air. I'm not kidding, Kristen. I wish I was kidding. I went like this.
I'll have to look into that.
I went like this in the sky, and it was like an eraser. It just erased it. And I'm like, I was kind of shaky, like, what the fuck is going on? And I started looking into them more. And I started looking into them more. People put these organite towers around their garden or whatever. No chemtrails will get, nothing will touch that zone. It's like a force field, apparently. But go back to the towers you were speaking of. And I apologize for interrupting. I had to tell you that. And maybe we'll talk about that later if you want. But talk about the towers you were talking about. And talk about the towers. Talk about your towers, and we'll get back into my towers.
Well, remember, I'm friends with Eddie, and he's all over the place. So I'm with you. No,
I know. Sometimes I'm all over the place. But I hear a word I thought you meant, and you didn't mean it. But I had to tell you what I meant because I know that you'd be interested.
I'm going to look into that.
Yeah. But tell me about the towers you were talking about and explain the rest of the story. I apologize for interrupting.
No, not at all. So what I'm saying is, like, if you're somebody who has like a raised flower bed, or like people have these little gardens, I have you grow these growing towers that have special lights. Try to bring your stuff in or shelter it as much as possible. Get a good engineering control in your HVAC system. I have this device. I don't get any money for promoting this. I like the iWave Air. It kills a lot of air pollutants, viruses, mold, bacteria. Just change out your filters. There's like HEPA filters, MERV 13 filters that will at least help clean the inside of your home, which in the end lowers what's called cumulative dose and synergistic toxicity. So that's some things you can do for your body. Do a metals detox. I'm not a doctor, but I follow enough natural health practitioners that say do a metals detox. I used to think those sprays were gimmicky, and I've used them for myself and actually did before and after blood tests. And I can tell you, for me, they worked. But honestly, if you want to try to attempt to just stop it, it kind of reminds me of like back in the early 90s in restaurants when they had smoking and non-smoking sections, as if like sitting 3 booths over is going to keep, the
Remember those
cigarettes
days?
from hitting you.
I used to smoke cigarettes, and I still did not like the smoking inside the building. I used to smoke cigarettes. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, so did I. I'll out myself. Yeah, but the best thing you can do is, like I said, those are things you can do for yourself and your health. But if you really want to at all attempt to stop it, start at your local level and I always say, when I defeat the government in court as an expert witness, I always do it with their own documents. It's not some study I found from someone else. It's the government's own documents. And they openly admit all these programs. Did you see the recent, I can't tell you how many people tagged me on all social media. I literally thought, like, did someone say I died or something? Because, by the way, people think I'm dead.
Why?
I don't know, because they think that what I said, like, oh, is she still alive? I heard she died. And I'm like, no.
Very much here.
But,
Very much
yeah.
here.
But the Ginger Z from Good Morning America, she did like this long segment about geoengineering. And then the one that made me kind of fall over is that I have been telling our mutual friend, Eddie Bravo, for many years that there will come a time where meteorologists will be sold to tell this as if it's a great idea. And then it's going to be purposely pushed and sold on to people. So I texted him when I saw this segment, because Ginger Z was talking about silver iodide spraying. So do you think, when they invented the Model T Ford, like we have electric cars now. So if they just started out with cloud seeding back in Vietnam, you don't think they progressed to other things? And she covered, she literally went up to the aircraft and she looked at the nozzle spraying silver iodide, and she explained all the things that they can do. But the big thing was, she said, oh, we talked about this 20 years ago when I was in meteorology school, but back then it was too expensive. And I'm thinking, like, bitch, do you think that they didn't advance it? So here I am. And I have really thick skin, by the way, but I have been mocked, defamed, threatened. I get death threats literally weekly. And I'm just thinking, is everyone else's ethics? So if you really did, and just so you know, one of my master's degrees, it's an environmental emphasis, and it was in my books. So, and I think
you're the perfect person to hear information about anything going on up there. And this is how, you already know, canceled and banned and shut up.
I've been canceled. We'll get into that. I was kicked off Facebook for talking about my profession, but not to be all over the place, but I just want to reemphasize, it's so openly admitted to the point now where someone tells me it's not true, or they cite this one douchebag that Joe actually had on his show, and I gave him shit for that, because this guy has 0 credentials in environmental, or he's not a chemist. Doesn't plot wind or anything. He's a gaming programmer I call Rumpelstiltskin, because I will not give him any airtime. But, just like we saw through the pandemic, the wrong experts were asked about issues. And the only people that can speak to this are people. I don't want someone from the EPA telling you it's not real, because it's even pilots say it's not real. But I'm like, just because you fly, a little C-7 or a small aircraft or an F-15 or something, it doesn't mean you have any idea about other processes. I mean, I drive a car and I know how to put gas in it, but don't ask me anything else. You know what I mean? And it just blows my mind that people don't understand unless you've had your hand in it. Of course, it'll seem shocking to you, but all you have to do, again, is look at those government documents. I've seen it through you and your argument about the flat earth. I'm on the fence on that issue, but the point is that I still at least listen. I can't tell you how many times I've told people to just watch something or look on a link and they won't click it because it's on Rumble or YouTube. And I'm thinking, but you'll.
And that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because this is the reason why I shifted my career into filmmaking, is because I realized that no one's going to give a Rumble link or a free YouTube video.
Yeah.
I'm not watching. There's no credibility to the masses for that. And I don't know why people think there is. There's none. But if it's on Prime, if it's on Netflix, or if it's on Hulu, then they'll be like, yeah, I'm going to watch it. Cool. So what I'm trying to do is I don't want to get to those platforms, guys, because they suck. I hate Hollywood. I'm trying to get to My Movies Plus. I'm already on there. They're fighting for the people and putting banned documentaries on their platform for a reason, freedom. So I'm with them. I'm with Rockfin, right? Even Vimeo allows my film. So I rock with Vimeo. So I try to give that same effect to people to where they go, it's actually, you have to rent it, right? You invest your money, the masses. The truth is, no, my films are always going to be free on my YouTube. At least a few weeks later, a month later, when I release a film, they know that already. But it's the masses. No, you need to rent the film, invest just like they're used to renting a Prime movie. You're investing your money, and now they're locked in their screen, and they will pause it to go piss because they paid for it, right? So I'm glad you brought that up, because I totally agree. If it's a Rumble link, a YouTube link, it's just like they don't even want to touch it. And if it's truthful information, oh my God, it's like, why are there separate types of humans right now? Do you understand?
Well, there's selective outrage. There's selective outrage. I cannot tell you, in the past 3 years, I've been fighting all these mandates, how many people won't look at me and my experts, state testimony or summits that we've held. They won't click the link, but then they'll send me a link of Dr. Fauci or like some, virologist who hasn't spent a day in my profession. And so it's funny that they'll bitch about my links, but I will actually click on their links so I can just debunk everything in like 3 seconds. But, I just think it's funny how things are discredited if they're on streaming platforms like YouTube and Rumble. That's how we talk to people. You can't put it on Facebook. You can't put it on Instagram. Twitter's about the only place now that you can post truth. Hell, they allow porn. So, at least I can talk about the truth of my profession, which encompasses, by the way, 17 disciplines, which is why I have my hand in so many government corruption issues.
Yeah. And this is why you are, for me, I'm not telling you how you lived your life, but for me, I look at it like, once you found out the lies and the cover-ups and the hushing and the you shut the fuck up now and the now we're going to throw you in a loony home if you don't shut up type of vibe. You must have said, oh, okay, 9/11 rabbit hole, this rabbit hole, this rabbit. You probably started opening some doors. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I learned about 9/11 truth. I saw, like I said, the film Terror Storm in 2008. Yeah. But I went into the Air Force right after 9/11 because, I was doing my patriotic duty. And I was stationed in England for 2 years. That was freaking awesome. But when I came back to the States, I will never forget, I was stationed in Oklahoma City, and this was like 2004. And when I watched Terror Storm, I believed it because when I got stationed at Tinker Air Force Base, they have aircraft there called AWACS. So they're like aircraft that have these giant satellite dishes because they can remotely hack aircraft. That's what you think would happen on 9/11, right? I remember I was at an AWACS place, again, doing an industrial hygiene survey, and it was the day of 9/11, and, they have the moment of silence on base, and they all rolled their eyes, and I thought, what the hell? Really? And they're like, you don't know 9/11 was an inside job? And I didn't even know what that meant, like inside job, right? And I was completely politically retarded, by the way. Like, I didn't care. I knew about Ron Paul, and that was it. And by the way, got my old school Ron Paul Revolution mug.
I know you're a fan. Yeah. I heard it on any show. Yeah. I'm not in the politics, so I hate them all. Yeah. But you know what? I hear his name come up a lot in the good department, so I'm sure he is good. I don't know much about it. But. Yeah.
So anyway, they started telling me that on 9/11, they were told, and I heard this years later again, but I originally heard from them that they were told they were running an exercise, and they call it a tabletop exercise. So they're in a conference room with the same scenario. And I just thought, what? But these weren't like young airmen talking to me. These were high-ranking officers and individuals who looked at me like I was dumb because I didn't know. And I thought that was strange. So then, years later when I watched that, I was like, holy crap. Alex talked about the exercises. And again, the fact that I heard it 4 years prior, I will never forget that. Yeah. So when you start to see things that our government does to us, there's people who cannot actually swallow the ideology that our government would harm us or do something so egregious and kill people. Yes, they will, because they're a bunch of sociopaths, neocons, and war profiteers. So, behavioral marketing is a part of my profession because I have to sell people to do things that are safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got to get them on board and how to communicate a message. And I started to just see that they're doing such a good job at brainwashing the masses and creating programming. And yeah, so I fully believe with every fiber of my being that 9/11 was an inside job. And I took it personally when people think you're being disrespectful to their survivors. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of parents and survivors and spouses of 9/11 victims that are demanding truth, including firefighters who have now, are dealing with cancer and issues like that. But that's another issue. The EPA telling people the levels were safe. What? So I don't want to sound like someone who's just completely conspiratorial or paranoid.
No. See that, but that's
I don't
the thing.
trust a single government agency, like at all.
You got to get over that side of it, Kristen,
Yeah.
because the truth is the truth. It doesn't really matter. Once we as humans can put aside others' feelings, then the world can change. Because what happens, like, I don't want to talk about that at the dinner table or at, with this family here, because like they'll be uncomfortable, and it's like then nothing will ever change. So again,
I don't care.
I know. I'm with you. I'll just I'll be on in an Uber. Just the driver's probably like, fuck. Okay, the Earth's flat. Get out of my car. Yeah, good. I'm telling you right now something. So I'm always talking to people about any topic I think is important, especially COVID. During COVID, was just constantly nonstop, especially when they pick me up with a mask on. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm just educating them the whole time, and whether they hate me or not. But yeah, you can't really care about people's feelings in this war because
I have a shirt that says "fuck your feelings." So, I mean, I know my audience. Let's just put it that way. If I'm going to speak to a bunch of evangelical Christians, I don't drop F-bombs, but I also don't like to self-censor, but I will when I'm trying to get people to at least open their mental. I always say, sometimes I say things and people are like, they gasp, they clutch their pearls. And I say, hold on a second, remove your emotions. Yeah. Remove your emotions, and then you can view your objections clearly.
Can't think logically.
And that invokes autonomous thought. And when I always tell people, all cops are bad, and they're like, oh, and I'm like, because cops, you're not supposed to have cops. You're supposed to have peace officers and sheriffs. So if you actually hold on a second, let me finish my sentence, you won't shut me out. Because I'm big on police accountability. But yeah, too many people will not initiate conversations, or they can immediately shut you down just from a video title or just a photo you have with somebody. And it's so dumb. We cannot grow and learn. And I research my opposition all the time. I can't tell you how many people have mocked me for even talking or just asking how many of my followers believe there's a flat earth. I watched Level Up. Like, I will watch things just to kind of see why people believe what they believe. And how many people do you know that actually do that? Not a lot.
No, and there needs to be more of those people. And that's the thing. I make my films based on my vision, my truth, my research, and whether it's going against the grain or not, I don't care. I don't even ask the opinions or know in the truth community or the masses community if it's popular, if it's unpopular, if it's going to be liked, is this project going to be made fun of? I don't fucking care. I have some truth here. And when you go boots on the ground to the center in Texas where they launch, this is where they launch most of the satellites in North America is in East Texas or wherever we were. And we drove down to the middle of nowhere and we're like, is that a NASA water tower in the distance? This is a community of nobody. And I'm like, how would anyone even know they existed here? We go there. I'm just thinking, you've heard of Tanner Stewart, Flat Earth Millionaire. So yeah. I'm with him, right? That's one of my best friends. And we're out there and we're just there for the aesthetics. I'm like, hey, I'll shoot you for the film. We'll have the satellite center behind you. We could talk about satellites around balloons and all this stuff, just to record it. All of a sudden these trucks start pulling up on us. We're like, what the fuck? Oh, there's people working here. The last guy pulls up into my camera frame and we befriend him quickly. And he admits all satellites are on balloons. And he doesn't even know what we're talking about when we told him, hey, Mr. NASA head of guy at this building, what about the satellites that they shoot up with rockets and they're just orbiting? And he's like, what are you he has no clue what we're talking about. And this is when I realized, so compartmentalized, that the people that know they're on balloons, of course they know they're on balloons. They've been on balloons since the 50s, he told us. Okay. Since day one, they've been on balloons to today. All of a sudden, Arthur C. Clarke makes a book about fantasy satellites orbiting. I think that was the 50s or 60s, 70s. I don't know. Back in the day, he made a book, an author, very famous sci-fi author, Arthur C. Clarke. I made a bunch of popular books, but the satellite one, that's when NASA was like, hey, that's pretty cool. Maybe we can make that into a tax plan tax scheme, do something, and yeah, another black budget, black hole, no evidence of it. I always just tell people, look, it's the easiest thing to do. Just go find a video of satellites orbiting with the space junk. Just one. I always tell people, just one. And people look at me like I'm retarded for that, and then I never hear back from them. So I'm like,
well, I have friends who are pilots, and I can tell you when I will tell you, I'm not sold yet, but I'm not shutting out the research. And I told myself, like, okay, if the earth is flat, like, how does it affect my life? And then, because that's how I fight everything, is how does it affect my life? But I will just tell you, just talking to certain people, they get fucking offended.
yeah.
Like, even my own
because it's
husband.
been 8 years. Imagine you telling people about chemtrails, geoengineering for 8 straight years, and someone's still like, "Oh, you're retarded." Eventually, you're going to be fed up with it. So I get some flat earthers get so crazy. I'm not like that. I'm just like, look, if you don't,
No. I mean the people. I'm not talking
my
about
bad.
flat
I'm so
earthers.
sorry. My bad. I
No,
thought you talking about
I'll
flat
give you
earthers.
an example. My husband, he's a scientist like I am. He gets mad. I'm just gonna out him. He gets mad. He's like, these people don't understand gravity, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I'll just say this. If the earth is fucking flat, I'm going to kill myself because it will completely, I will not believe anything around me. And I'm like, seriously. I mean,
Don't kill
he's
yourself.
being sarcastic. No, he's being sarcastic, but he gets he's very intelligent, but
he doesn't want it to be true. That's all it is. That for me, I don't know him, but just from hearing it, he just doesn't want it to be true because either A, he's stuck with his ball, he loves all that, and most of us do. Most of us did.
Cognitive dissonance. But again, I'm not saying I'm a believer, and I'm not judging, because this is what I want to see. I want to see more people actually take the time to like watch the documentaries, because you cannot complain and bitch about something you've never spent time. It's like me. I told people, if you don't believe me about mass not working, if you don't believe me about geoengineering, watch this fucking film, watch my testimony, watch my speech, and look at the documents I give you. Just take 5 fucking minutes and try to dive, but they won't. And what I want to see, had this conversation with my friend who's a pilot, who also gets angry when I talk about just, what do you think about it? Yeah. I want to see somebody in a non-condescending manner take what you've presented in your films. Like, I get now why you guys have questions. Like when you showed all the government documents referring to the earth as flat, like I have questions. Why did they say that? So where's the person on the other side that can non-disrespectfully, non-condescending, just go through and go, okay, so what is your evidence? And then you say this, can they kindly debunk it? Because all it is just ad hominem attacks. And the only reason that I don't shut the door on the issue is because I've been on the other side of that with my whistleblowing. Yeah. And I use that with my friends. Well, I have friends who literally thought I was full of shit. And then when they started waking up, now these people, like, they know, like, Capri Suns and frogs will make you gay. No. But you know what I mean? Like, these people are like, whoo, I call them the angry birds, because they are so far down a rabbit hole that I'm not down. But it's kind of funny watching people around me, like, kind of just come to like the moment of truth on multiple issues. And I just sit back and go, I told you.
Well, here's the thing for me, a lot of rabbit holes, well, not all, but some of them, they don't want to talk about. 9/11 is very an emotional rabbit hole for people to talk to, right? So sometimes they won't open up to that one. Chemtrails might be a little easier, but they'll be in denial right away. Like, it's just an airplane. So there's different rabbit holes. Not everybody can talk about it. Flat Earth or just the globe deception is one of the biggest ones, simply because it literally kind of crafted their childhood, right? It's like you told the 4-year-old about the bunny, about the Easter bunny. You told the 4-year-old about, the tooth fairy, about Santa Claus. The 4-year-old's got all this shit in his or her head about all these lies that everyone around them, their whole life, has lied to their face about. Their whole life's a lie so far. And then they're told in kindergarten, first thing you're taught in school is the soul lure. I will not call it solar. It's not what it's for. The soul lure system that they created, they shove it in your child's face, and they're like, you live here. And your child's like, where's my mom? Like, what? No, you live here. We're going to start with this. So what happens is they make you fall in love with it. The beauty, the magic, the definitely magic, going 4 motions, but they don't really describe it. They don't teach it. I know more about the heliocentric model now, Kristen, than all of my education combined times 10, because they didn't teach me anything. They said, you live here, The reason you don't fall off the ball is because of gravity. Gravity. Then you're on to 8th grade. You're into girls, and you don't care. So I'm like, okay, I'm into girls now. 7th, 8th grade. They don't even talk to you about the globe in high school. So because especially nowadays, you imagine nowadays they start talking about curvature in junior class of high school. There'd be suspensions every week. Because people are like, wait, hold on, there is no curvature. And that's why they don't talk about curvature formulas. They don't talk about the motion of the earth spinning in school, because there's no proof, there's no evidence or science test that prove that we're moving. So why would they bring it up in schools, my point, when there's nothing to show you? They just tell your kids Columbus discovered America. People already living here. They tell your kids we're on a ball. That's it. But the reason that adults, was my point. The reason adults won't just go, all right, let me watch Level with Me. Let me watch, this. Let me watch Eric Dubay. Let me watch anyone, even Eddie ranting on it. Let me watch something. They don't, because it's that 5-year-old in them that's like, no, this is real. Because my mom told me the Easter Bunny's fake, Santa's fake, maybe depending on your mom, dinosaurs are fake. It just depends. Your mom told you something. Yeah.
So I have a daughter who's 19 and I have one who's 7. And with my youngest, I completely parented different. I didn't do any of those things, but I made sure she knew to not tell other children because it wasn't our place. But because I got there, I evolved because I learned as a parent the psychological damage and the distrust. And I know people say, oh, they're fun and young, but like, don't be crazy when your kids do things that you think, well, that's dumb. And people have to understand, like, when it comes to children, like the frontal lobe of their brain is like the decision making. I've talked to a neurologist and a pediatrician about this, how like the decision making, it's so important to just be honest with your kids at a young age at their level. Because with my youngest daughter, she gives speeches, by the way, she's beyond her years.
Just like mom.
Yeah, she's like, I have an opinion, because people say she's too young to have an opinion. But anyway, I'll have to send you that video later. But what I'm getting at is, think about just outside of the whole what you're saying. How much do we know, think, or did we believe, or continue to do because it's just the way we've always done it? Yeah. Like, I mean, we could talk about that with circumcision or all this shit that people do. Like, why do we give infants a fucking Hep B shot?
Oh, don't get me started.
You know what I'm saying? Bullshit. Like, why we do shit just because it's become the standard, but somebody needs to stop. And you know what reminds me of? Have you ever been in like a big crowd? Like, I'm a big football fan. And like,
of course, yeah. I'm from Chicago. I used to go to Cubs games where like 50,000 people like this. So yeah.
And then you just see lines, and I've done it before, and I thought I was in the fucking bathroom line. Then I realized there's just people standing in the line, all thinking that they're going somewhere. And it's like, we've got to stop just getting in line like sheep. Like, we've got to pause for a second. And this is why I'll tell you, as a parent, I've never ever come out of my mouth as a parent. I've never said because I said so. And there's people who don't believe me, and I'm dead serious. And I never said because I said so, because I always explain the method behind the madness. And you know what that does? It garners respect and more compliance, even though I have a do not comply shirt on. But, my kids, like, whether it's leaving lights on or why you can't run around with a box cutter to open your Amazon package, I explain to my kids, I take the time. So when I say something, they don't always ask me why, but they understand it's got meaning behind it. And I know I'm ranting, but that's it goes a long way, because with your children, they look up to you as the authority. They look up to you as the person that's going to tell them the truth, hopefully, right? Because they don't know about lies yet. They're too little. They don't know. I mean, I don't judge parents, and I'm not even asking you about yours. I'm just saying parents in general. I don't judge parents if you're doing the Santa Claus stuff. Yeah, I don't either.
I don't just... like. It's fine. Like, for me, that's fine. I choose if I could have 10 kids tomorrow. I don't think I can lie to them about anything. It's just me. But there's some people that are like, nah, man, you got to play that game. It's like, no, you don't have to. But I get why some people still play it. It's just, for me, it sets them up for lies in public school. If you're gonna set your kids, not you, Kristen, but anyone listening, your kids to public school, you need to set the tone, because lies are coming. History's false. You got to spend a week on George Washington's teeth. At least I did in my school when I was little, about why they're wooden, and do a report. And like, what does that do for them as human beings? It does nothing. Little do I know if George Washington even walked the earth, is my point. I don't know these things. This is a Rockefeller education system. Let's be honest. The Board of Education started in 1920, Kristen, as you should know. In 1920, when that started, everything changed in this country specifically. including the maps in all libraries. Did you know that? All public libraries. Tell your husband this, but this is the last thing on the flat earth for the day. Because I don't like echo chambers, even though you're not a flat earther. I talk about it on the show, but here's the thing.
Well, my point is I don't just shun it. I actually look into it.
Well, tell your husband two things then. One, tell him to research if he wants to, that the public schools in America, that they were fighting this globe shit. They did not want it to be taught in school. Rockefeller had the upper hand there, as we all know why he does. He had the upper hand in the Board of Education. So you're not going to get free lunch. You're not going to get funding. You're not going to get anything if you don't push our books. This is our books, and no one's going to be able to outbid us on our books. So you're going to go broke. The schools were going broke.